Hello everyone and welcome back to Art a la Carte, and this is the narrated version of the painting that I just created called Dragon Sight. So if you'd like to see a more sped up version of that without all the talking, I have just the time-lapse video and you can go and check that out. I'll leave a link to that in the description box below. But in this video I'm going to talk a little bit about how I created the piece and then tackle a question that I get asked a lot. So first, let's go ahead and talk about how I made this piece and created it. I wanted to create a watercolor piece, and so I knew I was going to use a lot of water and probably other mixed medias with that. So the first thing you want to do is find a good quality paper that you know is going to handle a lot of work. So I used an watercolor block, which has a whole bunch of papers all stuck together, and they're glued on all the corners. Except for a little side area, and that really helps to keep the paper from warping very badly while you're applying all the water in the different colors. For the actual background, I wanted to have just this really bright explosions of color. So I used my color burst powders, and if you need some more information about what they are and kind of how to use them, I have a video where I talk about them, and I'll leave also a link to that in the description box below. But they are so fantastic. The colors are so vibrant with color bursts and so potent. A little goes a long way, and they're super messy and totally crazy, and you never know what you're going to get. So it's kind of a fun surprise. Once I got the colors on the way I wanted them, and you'll see that I would apply some and then dab off a little extra and then add in. You can just layer them up and up over top of each other, and they just blend and they're beautiful. But once you have them the way you want, before you start actually creating a piece, you want to make sure it's really dry. So you either want to set it aside for a few hours, let it dry, or I used a blow dryer and just blow dried it until the paper was completely flat again. Even on the art block, when you're using this much water, the paper is going to bubble a little bit. Not as bad as if you don't have it taped down. But you definitely want it to be super dry before you start the next process. So the next part, I decided that I wanted to sketch in my drawing. And for those of you guys who wonder, yes, I do. I use lots of reference photos. I use a lot of anatomy reference photos, color photos, things that inspire me to create the piece. I look at a lot of different things. I have a whole collection of just pictures that I keep that I'm like, oh, that inspires me to create a piece. And of course, you know, if you're drawing human body, you always have your own self as your own anatomy. So I always have like a little mirror right by my desk so that I can look in the mirror and see what my face looks like, or hand looks like, or hair looks like, or whatever it is I need to reference. But yes, I use a lot of reference photos. The thing that I generally try not to do is to copy a reference photo exactly. So for like this piece, there was a picture of a girl holding her hand up, and I think she was holding like a dandelion fluff things in her hand, but I liked the position that she had. So I'll take an idea of like the positioning, but I won't create the whole piece like that. I'll change things about it, and doing that helps you to create a picture that's uniquely yours, and people aren't going to look at it and go, wow, that's just a copy of that picture over there. So I went ahead and sketched in the drawing using a graphite pencil for the reason that I knew I was going to be able to erase the lines a little bit easier than if I used like a Prismacolor cool erase color pencil. And I was really happy that I did that, because I didn't want an outlined piece. If you're going to ink it in and outline something, you have a lot more options as what you sketch in with. But I wanted this to be not inked in. I wanted to have more of an illustrated rather than a cartoony look. Because the background was so bold, even though I dabbed off a lot of the paint from the center where I knew the figure would be, I knew I couldn't use just plain watercolor because watercolor generally is transparent. So you'll see a lot of things behind it. So I knew I couldn't use that, so I whipped out my gouache and went ahead and laid in the flat layers with that. But I had so much fun. I don't think I even switched over to watercolor again with that. I just played with the gouache, which was super duper fun to get those bold, vibrant colors, but they still blend and flow like watercolor, but they kind of act like acrylic. It's like this awesome hybrid of paint. So that, in a nutshell, is the process that I went through in creating this piece. So now I want to answer a question that I get a lot from different viewers when I post videos of paintings that I'm doing for a completed picture. So those videos are not really like, well, how to draw this or how to draw that. I'm showing you the process that I use to create an entirely new piece. And that question that I get asked a lot is, can you do a step-by-step tutorial on how to draw this piece? And the answer to that question is no, I can't. And the reason I say that is not because I'm being stingy and I don't want to share how I created this piece. It's that if I actually had the audio in this and tried to explain exactly what I was doing, it would make no sense, because really, as I'm creating this piece, I have very little clues as to how this is actually going to go. I am taking risks, I'm taking chances, I'm going, okay, if I put this paint here and blend it with this color, I hope it's going to work. Or if I do this, is it going to turn out? My painting process is always an adventure. I have an idea or a theme that I usually go with when I want to create a piece. And sometimes it turns out a little bit like what I first envisioned, but most of the time it comes out completely different. So trying to create a video on how to do this step by step would be virtually impossible, because I couldn't even recreate this piece again. Especially with working with watercolors, they're kind of unpredictable, and that's what I like about them. They're crazy like me, and it would just be hard to get that same flow. For those of you who would really like to be able to create a piece like this, I could recommend things that you could practice to be able to create a piece like this. First one I would suggest is to work with watercolors. If you want to create a watercolor piece like that, I would practice watercolors. I do actually have a whole series on painting with watercolors. I'll put a link to that in the description box below. But practice just tons of little tiny paintings using watercolor, just to begin to know what your medium does. That's how I can create these pieces. I don't know how they're going to turn out, but I know if I do this to my medium, this is how it's going to react. So if I use watercolor this way, it's going to react that way. If I put color pencil on top of this, I know that's going to happen. But I'm still always learning. Even with the gouache, I realized that if you put a really heavy coat of gouache on there, and then try to put pencil over top of it, the gouache will actually crack and chip off. So on the bits of her earring and on her jewelry, on her headpiece, I had the gouache chip off, so I had to chip it off with my finger and then go back over with colored pencil and relay that color in there. So I myself am still learning what my mediums will do. So getting to know your art supplies is just going to take practice, just trial and error, messing up, making mistakes, and then trying again. If you want to create a piece like this, I would also recommend that you study up anatomy, look at anatomy books, watch anatomy videos. I've done several videos on how to draw people, so you can check that out. And then with the dragon, just practicing looking at people's art of dragons, and then just begin to create your own dragons and just draw them. If you haven't practiced these things up, I wouldn't sit down to try to create a finished piece yet. Because you're going to work really hard on one aspect and then try something new and mess it up. So I would practice all of these elements separately and then put them together. But as for trying to teach exactly how I did this piece, yeah, it's not something I think I could actually do. And I don't think I want to. I would want you guys to be able to have the adventure of creating your own piece. Because that's the fun, that's what I enjoy, is the adventure of, will this piece turn out? And when it does, how's it going to look? Well, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Let me know in the comment section below. If you're new to this channel, hit the subscribe button. Also, if you're interested in this piece, I do have it up for sale on my Etsy shop. You can head on over there. I will be getting prints of this made soon. I have to order them and get them shipped, so it will be a while before prints are available. But yes, there will be prints of this. And if you'd like to see the speed version of this, definitely check that out. Thank you guys again for hanging out with me, and until next time, God bless you guys, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye!